Hello, and thank you for joining us at our BNI San Diego podcast. Again, we're live in Las Vegas, Nevada for our 2024 BNI National Conference. I'm really excited. I have a very good friend, colleague, Jessica Lopez. And Jessica, where's your region at?
So my region is BNI Desert Southwest.
Okay.
And we cover the El Paso, Texas area, all the way down to almost Big Bend. So if you're familiar with the Texas geography, little point at the very, very end, all the way down to almost the other little point.
Okay, very nice. Terrific. So Jessica, what are we going to talk about? We've heard a lot at conference, right? There's been a lot of wonderful information, workshops, presentations, getting to hear Dr. Meisner himself talk about some incredible topics. What are we going to talk about today?
So I have been moved by holding the vision and not the obstacles. That is what Dr. Meisner's been talking about.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that as it pertains to, it is. Thank you. As it pertains to small chapters. Because I feel like
it's
sometimes
probably really
small
easy.
chapters have a hard time holding that vision.
Yes.
So
let's start with, why do you think that is? Why is it hard when because again, chapters go through fluctuations. They go up in size, they go down in size, but sometimes as a smaller chapter, a chapter in growth mode, it can be really challenging to see beyond the small chapter size.
So let me take a step farther back.
Okay.
Before that chapter goes into growth mode.
Yeah.
When they're hanging out, kind of singing the woe is me.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Because we're so small. It's so hard. Mm-hmm. We're not getting the results we wanted. Right. And so I think it starts there. At that. It's so hard. We're so small. What do we do now? The obvious answer, right, is the vision. Get bigger.
Well, and it's interesting because Dr. Meisner talked about an element of what you focus on. If you're let's say you're in a car, right? You're in a car and you're driving down the street and whatnot. If you're focused on the curb, guess where you're going to go? You're going to go into the curb. And what did he talk about? He talked about looking at that wide open space in front of you. So to your point, what are you focusing on?
Yes, right. So that's exactly right. Small chapters focus on, we're so small. Mm-hmm. It's so hard. Why can't we do what they're doing? Right. The big chapters.
Yes.
And so they spend so much time in that problem. I like to call it an opportunity.
Yeah.
In that problem that they're not looking at the solutions. Right. So focus on the vision.
So let's dive into that, right? Focus on the vision, right? Because everything else is an obstacle. All of those negative thoughts are the obstacles that we're just talking about. How can we help them when they're at this place? It's sometimes for some people can be hard to figure out what the vision is.
Yes. And I think it's important, either me and you, right, as executive directors, to go in, or have our director
team,
consultant, whoever's in there, right, go in and remind them why they're in the room.
Ooh.
Right? So you were a member? I was a member.
Absolutely.
Why were we in the room?
Yeah.
Right? To grow our network. Right?
Yes.
Why? And actually, that's really not why we were in the room. It's not why I was in the room. I was in the room because I didn't ever want to make another cold call. Right?
Yeah, no, very much so.
Yeah. So I was in the room to create lifelong referrals. What nobody tells you is that takes some work.
Yeah, you got to roll up your sleeves and get to do a little bit of work.
Yeah. It's not, BNI is not a magic wand.
Nope.
Right? It takes some work. And so what is that work? That work is building your network. So you still have to go out and find, whatever it is, your people, your contact sphere, right? The people that you're already passing referrals to are getting referrals from every day and twice on Sunday. So I'm a realtor. I darn well better have a mortgage broker sitting in my chapter. And if I don't, shame on me.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a realtor. I darn well should have security. Right? And I don't want to name any companies, but security companies. And if I don't, shame on me. Because that security person is going to send me referrals every day and twice on Sunday. It's my job, not BNI's job, not your job as a fellow member of my chapter. It's my job to go and find my potential partner.
Ooh.
Right? I mean, it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Because only you know the individuals that you would naturally pass business to and or want to pass business to.
That's it.
Right?
Who do I want to work with?
Yes.
It's my responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm building my team, right? So in order for me to build lifelong referrals, I have to build my team. And so let's see. When I became a member of BNI, it was a chapter of 30 something.
Okay.
So that's comfy, right?
It is. It's a good size.
I didn't really have to put a lot of effort into building my team.
Yes.
There was a ready-made
you're
part of it anyway.
You're coming into a turnkey house, right? When you walk in the door, furniture is already there, everything, you just, unpack your bag and you move in.
Yeah. Downside, I didn't get to pick them.
Ooh, that's a good point too, right?
So I didn't get to pick them. If I don't really like the way, and I hate to say this, but occasionally it happens, right? If I don't really like the way, again, I'm going to go back to the realtor, right? If I don't really like the way the security person does business, I'm kind of stuck. Now, and we know this, right? And I feel like this is important. We need to talk about this. There's a misconception out in the world that when you join BNI, you absolutely must give referrals to the people in the room.
You're not obligated to give referrals to every person in the room.
No, you still have to earn them, right?
Yes.
So I'm a real estate agent and I go into a ready-made chapter with a security person that I'm like, there's just whatever it might be. It might be just, I don't really like you, right? A personality clash.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Could be anything.
I'm really loud. You're really soft-spoken. We're never really going to connect or the other way around, right?
Yep.
You're really loud and you scare me because you're just so loud. Whatever it is, right? There's that downside.
Yeah.
Right? In a small chapter.
Whoa. So everything changes.
I get to go out and pick perfect person for
me. You
me.
used that word earlier that when you were talking about challenges, you used the word opportunity, right? Because now that challenge is now an opportunity to invite the people that you're looking for and your referral partners, and you get to interview them. You get to be a part of that process of building your team.
Yep.
So forget the complaining. Let's get out there and work on building the people that are bringing in the people that I want to bring in.
And how's this? Now it is truly my vision.
Ooh.
Because it's my team.
That's a really good way to put that.
Right? I pick them.
Yeah.
I pick them. Now, I may not pick them all because hopefully
they're going to be inviting as well.
Right. Other people in the room are inviting
Yeah.
people. And so now I get to, go to the grocery store and squeeze the apples and see which one I want.
Yes.
Okay. Or better yet, right? One is going to come in and be a part of my chapter. And the others I can develop relationships with outside of BNI.
Yes.
Because as you and I both know, not every client is the best fit for me or for you.
And let's face it, I was having a conversation with someone recently, and the person asked me, Ed, is every client your client? And I thought about it, and I'm like, originally I said yes, and then I caught myself. And as we started talking, no, we don't want. Not every client is going to be our client. Not every client do we want.
No, right. So even as BNI executive directors, right? Not every business owner is my client.
Correct.
I need a business owner and we're totally getting off track. But I think it's the same, it's the same general concept.
Yeah.
I want a business owner who knows down deep in their soul that there's enough business for everyone.
That's the abundant mindset.
Yep. And they live and appreciate giver's gain.
So wait. For our listeners who are not familiar with BNI, what is giver's gain?
So giver's gain is that philosophy where you give without necessarily wanting to receive.
So it's different than quid pro quo, right?
100%.
Because quid pro quo is if you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. Or you give me you're right. But BNI is, or giver's gain is,
I'm going to give to you with absolutely no expectation of getting anything in return, because I'm going to help you grow. And I know that the universe is going to bring that back. It may not come through you though.
Yeah. So what do? We show up to give every single week.
We show up to give.
Right.
And that's the other thing, right? BNI members know that they have to give first. You have to give first, right? So small chapters, what are they giving? What are they giving? They're
giving opportunity, right? Because often, as you said earlier, when you're going into a larger chapter, you're coming into something that's ready-made that you're not a part of the development of. And what you're doing in a smaller chapter, the benefits of this is the opportunity is you can invite people in that you may already know first and foremost, and you get to be a part of who sits in those key roles that are not currently in your chapter.
Yeah. So here's the other one. And I get this question all the time. I want to hear your answer. But how do I, as a small chapter member, convince a visitor that's already been to a big chapter that it's better here? What do you say to that?
Ooh, that's a great question. And I may need to think about that one for a second. That is a really good question. There are multiple reasons, right? When you're coming into a room that may already have relationships established, you get to be a part of, again, kind of going back to what we talked about, you now get to be another person in that room that gets to invite the people that they want in that room to co-create a larger chapter. So you get, one of the benefits is being able to invite the people that you know and like and already trust and may already be in a relationship with, to invite them in, where when you're in another chapter or go into an existing chapter, those key spots are probably already filled.
Yeah. So here's another one. Here's what I like to say. It's so much easier to develop the level of depth that you need in a relationship when there's 5 of you than when there's 30 of you.
Oh yeah.
Right? So
absolutely.
I get to come in to a small chapter and really focus on whatever it might be, 5, 9, 12, and get to profitability faster with the entire room, right? With the entire room. Because obviously it doesn't matter whether there's 100 members or 4. You and I have to spend a certain amount of time together.
Doing one-to-ones, building that relationship.
Getting to know each other, right? And, I was going to say, but I stopped myself. And in a small chapter, you don't have that overwhelm.
Yes.
It's intimidation.
Yeah.
I think that's the other word. Intimidation. When you walk into a chapter of 30, 40, 50, 80, you got to break in.
Oh, yeah.
You got to break in. They don't know who you are.
Yeah.
In a chapter of 10, 20, it's a heck of a lot easier to feel like you're an integral part of that group quickly.
Now, that doesn't mean that you want to stay at that size.
100%.
Right? Because you want to be able to build that you want to be able to build that chapter, the group of individuals, your referral partners, to an extent where the referrals are coming in on a more regular basis because there's more opportunity with more people in the room in different areas of business.
Yes. Yes. So, I like to think of churches, right?
Yep.
Churches always want to get bigger.
Yeah.
And what is the first complaint that you get from congregations?
when it's too big, it's too impersonal.
It doesn't feel personal. I want it to be smaller. We hear that at chapters as well. And and not in that whiny voice. That's just what happens in my head. But, it's so, and what do churches do?
They do small groups. And in BNI, what do we call that?
Power teams.
There you go, people. Power teams.
So we have a solution for that. And it's actually a great solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now you have all the benefits of a large chapter and the benefits of a small community. Your small community.
Your intentional, strategic small community.
Yeah.
So let's get our smaller chapters. I like to call them chapters in growth mode. Let's work with those chapters to find those key people to invite in to be able to also help them build even more, because with every person you invite in the room, you're now expanding your network with all of their network. And then we're all co-creating this chapter to make it larger so that we can get to that point where we are able to utilize power teams. We are able to build those small groups of individuals that we're really strategic with, because that's where, let's face it, we know that in the general chapter, business is going to happen, but there's a lot of magic in power teams.
Yes, because it happens faster.
Oh my God.
Right? And easier.
Yes.
And I hate to say automatically, but it feels automatic.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it does.
It really does.
It does. It feels automatic in a power team, because that's when it starts to feel like, oh my gosh, I just show up and people hand me referrals. We know that's not exactly what happens, but that's how it feels.
Yeah.
You've already done the work. Right? So the vision for that small chapter, those members of small chapters, really is, why am I here? I'm here for lifelong referrals. And in order for me to have lifelong referrals, I have to work it and create the team.
Well, and it goes back to, it just popped into my head. Simon Sinek, we know who Simon Sinek is. What's one of his main number one book that we all know of?
Yep. What's your why?
Start with why. Right? So we've got to, sometimes when we're a smaller chapter, we've got to remember, we've got to ask ourselves, I like to say, you've got to help people fall back in love. Right?
I love
because
that.
It's easy. So I'm going to share a little story here. Years ago, and I won't name names, but many, many years ago, I had some really good friends who we did a lot of stuff with. Over the years that they've moved away, and we were at a party and got to talk to them a little bit. They were really struggling, going through a lot of marital challenges, right? Which happens oftentimes as we grow, if we're not holding the vision, going back to holding the vision.
Yeah.
Right. So they were, from what I had been told and what had been shared with me, they were in the process of getting a divorce. Right. And so we got to chat a little bit. We stayed in touch for a little while, and then life happens, and I didn't see them for a couple of years. I was at an event, and that from where you're talking to someone, and from the peripherals, you can kind of see things and I saw these two people walk up, and they walk up holding hands, and they're kind of laughing and that, and I'm talking to someone, and I had to do the double take. It was I think it might have been a triple take. And my mouth opened up, and the husband started laughing, and they're talking, and he looks over and he says, "Ed, you're wondering what's going on, right? Because this is that same couple, but now they're holding hands, they're laughing, they're engaged." And I'll never forget it. He turned to me and he said, "Ed," he said, "we gave it one last chance, one last shot, and we decided to go see a marriage counselor. And this counselor helped us remember why we fell in love with in the first place."
Love that.
And for BNI, sometimes we can get into a place of, what's the word? Routine, right? Where
you're checking the boxes.
Yes.
You forget why.
Yes.
You're checking the boxes. And that, I think, small chapters specifically, feel that challenge.
Well, I'm going to take it even a step further. Oftentimes, small chapters become small chapters because they got in that rut and they were just checking off the box.
Yes. And they forgot why.
Yes. Yeah.
They forgot why.
Because when in that, they forgot to invite. They forgot to do the things, that little thing called the power of one that we talk about, right? They forgot
5.
about inviting and all those types of things. So yes.
Yeah.
I love
So
this
that's-
topic.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, BNI. Okay, I'm going to hit you with some brutal honesty. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. BNI can be the world's largest inviting organization.
Yeah.
When does that happen?
When you start inviting.
And when your chapter is small.
Yes.
Right? Because when your chapter is large,
It's easy not to invite.
you can get away with not inviting. Okay? That, and when visitors come in the room, it's impressive, right? A visitor, just from a sheer numbers perspective.
Yeah.
Before the meeting starts, before anything happens, before the chapter opens its mouth, it's impressive. So
Yeah, the energy in the room, everything. Yeah.
for a large chapter, all they have to do is not mess it up. I mean, that sounds bad, but just don't mess it up.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's already impressive. The visitors are here and, everything. It's a snowball. Large chapters are a snowball coming down the hill. It feeds itself.
Yep.
Small chapters are pushing still.
Yes.
Right? They're pushing that snowball up the hill, which is harder, right? And it's not impressive per se. I'm not trying to say that there's not value in a small chapter. I believe there's value in even 3 people working intentionally together to grow their
Absolutely.
business. Or 2, right? So, but it's not as readily apparent, right? To the untrained eye, right? So if I walk into a room of 50 people, I'm immediately, or 60 people, I'm immediately impressed. Ooh, look at all these business owners working together.
Yes.
I walk into a room of 8 business owners. I may or may not be impressed.
And I would agree with that. Here's a key thing that, and it just reminded me, and I know that we're coming to our close time, but it also depends on with a small chapter, a chapter in growth mode, how you present and how, even though it's a smaller chapter, are you running a successful meeting?
So yes, right? And so now the don't mess it up
Yes.
is so much more important.
Yes.
Now,
Even more. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you, as a member of a small chapter, have more opportunity to make a great impression, right? Because it's 90 minutes. So in 90 minutes, with 20 of you,
Yep.
you get to speak longer. It's just a little more calm, right? In 90 minutes in a 45, 50 person chapter,
Bam, bam, bam.
you're
It's
just
all over the
moving.
place. Yeah.
And what's happening to the visitors? The visitors they're watching tennis, right?
Yes.
And honestly, that's why we ask them to come back. We
That's a
ask
good
them
point.
to come back
Yeah.
because that's a lot. And
It can be overwhelming.
they only caught
True. Very good point.
in a small chapter. It can still be overwhelming, and they're going to catch more for sure.
And the key element is that in that is making sure that you might be small and you're working on growth, but you've got to run a successful meeting. That means following the agenda and not, because we're smaller, we don't do this, or we're not going to do that part, or, and that may lead to another conversation. And I know that we're coming up to our time, and I may have opened up a can of worms.
Giant can of worms. But no.
But that means that we're going to be back together again.
Absolutely. So that intentionality becomes super important. And we'll just park the can of worms over here.
So we're parking it over there to be able to check out.
We're parking it over here. But the intentionality, I mean, you just said it.
Yeah.
It's I think part of that vision, right? So the vision is building lifelong referrals. I know that that's what I want for my life, lifelong referrals.
So Jessica, thank you for taking the time out of this busy conference. There's been a lot of good things going on. So as a last minute thought, leaving our listeners, what's a kind of a inspiration, a last minute thought you can share with our listeners as we head out the door?
Oh, challenge. I think the last minute inspiration that I would leave is simply there is value in intentional groups, no matter how big they are.
No matter the size.
Yeah, there's value there. So don't feel bad if your chapter is small. You can make it bigger and you still have the opportunity for lifelong referrals.
Ooh, I love that. So let's end with the quote that you shared, which is,
hold the vision, not the obstacles.
Ooh,
and that's Dr. Meisner, it's not mine.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Again, live from Las Vegas at our BNI National Conference 2024. Jessica Lopez, thank you. I'm looking forward to, again, over there we've got that can of worms that we're going to open up at a different time. Thank you for joining us. Our listeners, we hope you have a great rest of your week. We look forward to being back with you again. And again, Jessica, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
See you, everyone.
This episode of the BNI San Diego Podcast has been brought to you by Cruise Productions, a San Diego-based video production company and proud BNI member. You can find us at the intersection where business and creativity meet, or online at cruiseproductionsinc.com.